Welcome back to Making Good Choices Monday. I'm Becky Amiel, and if you don't think that a horse can double barrel you when you're standing up by its head when it's tied, boy, do I have a story for you. So hang in tight. We're going to get into it right now. So first off, before we even get started today, I want you guys to comment down in the comment section and just a simple yes or no. Would you believe it if I told you that I've been double barreled by a horse and I was standing up by its head and it was tied? I would have never believed it either. So, this is Hawk. He's owned by Law and Ranch Quarter Horses. He's going to help me demonstrate today, or at least he's not going to do it, but he's going to help me show you what I was doing when I got double barreled by a horse that was tied. So, it was a gelding that I'd probably had about 45 rides on, and it was for the first ranch I was working for when I moved here to South Dakota. And this gelding was in a pen where he had cut his face, and he had ran into a piece of the corral panel and cut his face. And it had gone a couple of days without being doctored on. And so we needed to do something about it, but of course he didn't want to be caught, and I was the only person that could catch him. And so I went out there to doctor on him, and nobody was home. And when I did, I think it was on one of my days off. And by this point, they had put him in a pen with some other geldings. Yeah, there's probably about 5 of them in the pen. Pretty good-sized pen. And, of course, he wasn't going to let me put a halter on him like a traditional halter. So I had to put the halter around his neck like you would when you're bridling one. So I had it on him like this, and he had a pretty gnarly cut on his face. It was like right over the bridge of his nose here, like right where the halter goes anyway, so there was no way I was going to get a halter on him. But I got him up to the rail, and we weren't tied to a tie rail. We were tied to a corral panel, and the rope was kind of long anyway. And so I had him tied up, and it wasn't with a good knot like this, where like if you pull on this, it's not going to give too much, but it'll give right up here. So I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do for him. I just came with like a bucket of warm water and a washcloth and some betadine scrub. I thought I'd wash it and get like kind of all the crust and stuff off of his nose. And then I thought I'd put some ointment on it. About all I could do for him. So here I come walking up to him with this white washcloth, and Hawk, I need your attention here, bud. Okay. Now this guy's not scared of very much either. So I go walking up to him, and I don't even get this close to him. And this horse spooks as I'm coming up to him, and he sits back. He goes backwards. He pulls the halter tight. He stretches the lead rope out longer. And he tries to get away, but he couldn't get away. This is why I say a lot of times they're just looking to get away from you. Well, he couldn't get away, and he spun around, and he double-barreled me, and he launched me like a frickin' cartoon. And I landed in the manure, good 12, 14 feet away. It was a bad deal. And he fought a little bit more, and he eventually quit. But I laid there in the manure and the dirt for quite some time. And I fished my cell phone out of my back pocket, which is what I'm really, really good at. I have perfected the art of pulling my cell phone out of my back pocket while I'm laying on the ground, even with a broken arm, which we'll get to that story eventually. But fished my cell phone out of my back pocket, and I called my boyfriend and told him what happened, and we only lived about 2 miles down the road, so he was going to come down and get me, even though I drove myself down there. And I was still laying there on the ground. A couple of the other horses had come over to sniff me. And I think I texted my boss and told her that I had just gotten kicked and the horse was going to be standing there tied at the tie rail, and I wasn't going to be moving him. And when I finally got up, I was pretty sore, and I was laying over the corral panel like this when my boyfriend showed up, and I was pretty sore. He kicked me in my girl part. He got me in my girl part with his hind left, and with his hind right, he got me on the inside of my groin because I had a perfectly shaped hoof bruise on the inside of this leg. I crawled out of the pen, and I got in my own pickup, and I drove myself home. And I got in the house, and I peeled all my clothes off, and I went to get in the shower because I was just totally disgusting. And he had cut me across my pelvic bone with the kick from the left side. And I was split about 1.5 to 2 inches, and I was bleeding. And I probably should have gone to the doctor and gotten stitches, but I didn't have insurance. This was before the Affordable Care Act, and there was no insurance company in their right mind that was going to insure a horse trainer. I now make the a squared plus b squared of the Pythagorean theorem. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's basic sophomore geometry. I will put a picture of what it looks like on the side here, and you can take a look at it. But yeah, the next day, I had to show a horse for some clients that were coming from like Iowa to try this mare. And thank God this mare was so gentle and kind and very sweet. And this was long before I was putting the lick tub up to them to get up on their back. But this mare let me roll a 55-gallon drum over to her and climb on that to get up on her. And I rode her, and she was just so perfect and kind. And these ladies that came to try her, they understood what I was going through, and they ended up taking her home with them that night. So that was a happy ending there. But eventually, a couple weeks later, I had to get back on this sucker that kicked me. I had to go back to riding him again. And the scary part was I didn't want to be around him, let alone be on his back. And he wasn't a bronc on his back. He was just woofy and watchy on the ground. That's just the way he was, So, it wasn't like this is something that happened out of the blue. He had an inclination to be that way anyway, It just happened to be when I was trying to doctor on him. A lot of the things that horses do, they don't just turn on you. There's usually a sign. They usually give you an indication that it's going down, and they're making a decision whether you like it or not. So when I finally had to get back to riding him again, I was really scared of him. And it wasn't like he was a very big horse. I mean, he was probably about the size of this Colt I'm standing next to right now. And he was a 3-year-old. And like I said, I had about 45 rides on him, but I didn't want to be around him anymore. I didn't want to be on his back. But I had to suck it up and do it because that was my job, and we needed to get him sold, and we needed to get him gone. And so I think I only had to ride him about another month or two before we ended up placing him in a home. But yeah, I've got this sign in my house that says courage is being scared to death but saddling up anyway. And boy, there's a lot of truth to that. And from especially this point on, after having this experience, I have always thought back to that. Whenever I get scared of doing something or overthink something, I remember back to this time that I was scared to death to get back on this horse that kicked me. And I think courage is being scared to death but saddling up anyway. And, I remind myself that, hey, I got back on him, and I went back to riding him again, and we placed him in a pretty good home, and we moved him along, and, everybody lived happily ever after. So there's my story. don't take it for granted when you're standing up next to them and they're tied. You know, don't take it for granted at any time that they're capable of doing anything. All horses bite, all horses kick, all horses strike, all horses rear, all horses buck. You know, some are more inclined to do it than others, and some are more reactive than others. So I hope you've learned something from this experience, and you know, maybe go home and give your good horse a pat and a hug and tell them how wonderful they are, because some of them out there aren't so kind and they aren't so forgiving. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. Remember to hit like, subscribe, share this video with your friends. Leave a comment down below. Make sure you guys tell me yes or no whether you thought that it was possible to get double-barreled by a horse while you're standing up by its head, because I would have never believed it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and happy Monday to you.